Hey gamers, it's grindthisgame here, back with Icarus. This is going to be hopefully a fairly short guide to the Waterfall expedition, where you basically have to build over a mountain to get into kind of a river valley. This is actually my second attempt at it. The first time I got halfway through, died, but I'll explain it a little bit later in the video. But let's start off with listening to the narrator.
There's been a development. UDA are pushing Lagos hard to open up new parts of the Terra Zone for prospecting. But almost no one's come back from up there, so on-the-ground data is non-existent, and no drop zones yet. That's where you come in. They need someone experienced to find a way into the region. Should be plenty of resources, but who knows what else is roaming around up there. You up for this one?
So here's what I'm using for my loadout. I use some points to get this little micro meal. The water flask is a big help, and that module is for increased running speed. I also start with a knife. I've been kind of building up my my toolkit that I bring to each place. Now this one...
Normally, Lagos would get their own people to open up new areas. They like to get in first. But they've been losing folk left, right, and center. So, here we are. At least the goal's simple. Just get there and plant a beacon for supply pods. Destination's on the map. Tricky part is, doesn't look like there's any natural pathways. So maybe you're gonna have to make one. But first, you gotta get there. Don't let me hold you up. Grab a beacon and get going.
So yeah, we're supposed to grab a beacon. I ended up going to the place where we're supposed to build over first, and then realizing I needed the beacon, but I'm playing a little bit more cautiously here. This episode, or the whole playthrough, took about just shy of 3 hours, probably because I was taking my time and I died a few times. But the first time I tried, I got halfway across the map and I didn't have a spawn point, and a bear killed me, and it was nighttime. So I woke up in a new place. Like the pod came down again, put me in a somewhat random spot, and it was dark, so I couldn't see anything. So I couldn't find rocks to build a pickaxe. I couldn't basically do anything, and there was predators all over the place. So they just kept killing me in a death spiral. So I restarted from scratch. So that's what this playthrough is. Now I always like to get my regular tools going here, do the pickaxe, axe, campfire. I like to start cooking food as quickly as possible. And I also try to get a stone knife right away, but now that I've got the starter knife, definitely helps out a lot. And the thermos that I have, great tool for this map. If you have the points, I highly recommend it, because you basically fill it up once, and it satisfies you for most of the episode, or most of the playthrough. So yeah, stone knife, and then once I've killed a few animals, I switch over to the bone knife. But definitely worth getting enough stuff to build a wooden shack, like a 1x1, so that you can save a spawn point or two along the way, in case you die, like I did. The hyenas and stuff are pretty easy to deal with, but what happened to me is when I got to the mountain pass into the new area, there was a bear there, and he got me pretty badly, as you'll see later on. Other recommended item for this playthrough is the bone sickle, because it'll give you way more... Oh, getting attacked here. Gives you way more fiber from plants than you'd normally get. And fiber is pretty limited on this map. Now the confusing thing about this mission is building over the mountainside, which we'll get to later, but it isn't clear exactly where you should build and how you should build. The game doesn't really help you out at all, so I'll show you what I did. And I don't normally invest in the thatch building materials. But I did end up investing a few points in thatch, just because it's a lot cheaper to make ramps and stuff. I don't recommend it for buildings, but for building quick ramps to get over stuff, definitely worthwhile. I'm going to swap out my bone knives here, or swap out my stone knives for bone knives. I really like the bone knife because it's easy to repair, and there's no shortage of bone in this game when you're getting hit by animals. And now we filled up the canteen, I can just put it in that water slot and it'll automatically fill things up. Here's that bone sickle in action. You get about 36 fiber per plant versus the regular 8 or so. And you'll need fiber for bandages on this map, as well as building various things. Now there's no berries on this map, so I end up trying to cook some meat right away to get the meat bonus. And it's just good to have food for healing. The only major threat on the desert map are the elephants. You don't want to mess with them. They will attack you if you get too close, but you have to get really close until they attack. But if you attack a predator when there's an elephant nearby, it'll join the attack and attack you. So try to be really safe around elephants. I'm going to make a couple floors here and 4 walls so we can get a little shack going. And bedroll so that we can... I always save through the nights because it's impossible to see things at night. But moving on, we finally got all our starting stuff ready, so it's a good time to move out. So heading west here, we got hit with our first dust storm, which I'll probably try to travel through. This whole family of animals was walking through, so figured I'd get the experience. And of course the hyenas came after. Even if you don't need this stuff, it's worthwhile getting experience. Okay, we're almost at the destination now. Skipping ahead. So we get to a bit of forest biome here. And there was, both times I played through, there was a bear waiting for me here. So I make a little shack just to make a save point, just in case. And there he is. Waiting in a pretty tight alley there. Now bears can climb up vertical cliffs. Cliffs that you can't even climb up. They are kind of stupid sometimes. They get stuck on rocks and stuff, but watch this guy. They're just like... hiding on tall rocks doesn't work anymore. The best way to deal with them, I've found, is just to hide in a 1x1 hut with a doorway, because they can't get through the doorway. Well, they'll knock the wall down, but a wood wall will last long enough for you to shank the bear in the head the 10 times it takes to kill it. So I sleep through the night here because I don't want to travel at nighttime, even though it's nice and cool in the desert. There's just no light, and you can get overwhelmed by animals at night. We're getting really close now. We're in the forest biome. There is a bear fight coming up that I want to show you guys. It's one way to deal with bears. If you have a clear open space. If you're kind of trapped in a small area, this won't work so well, but... basically, before the bear gets to you, you just kind of move to the side. Because they don't turn very well. They're like big trucks. The only thing you have to be careful of is running out of stamina. So you don't want to run too far. Try to get that headshot each time you come around. You can even hear him sliding as he's trying to turn around. If you're lucky, you'll get 2 or 3 shots in, but if you move too late, they'll get you, and they do tons of damage, as you probably have realized. But this is one way to deal with them. I prefer hiding in a 1x1 hut and just knifing them to death through the doorway, but you can't always predict these kind of fights. There he goes. Only a few arrows. Oh, and then they hit us with the... Oh, minor showers, that's fine. Okay, so they might have changed the quest by the time you watch this, but it's a little bit confusing. You head towards the main beacon on the map, and then the narrator does an update. So we're almost there. He should say something in a second here.
I don't want to tell you your job, but if you build a way up that face, sat images look like you'd have a clean run all the way to the Riverlands. Easy for me to say. You're the one's got to do it.
So it sounds like you're supposed to just build up the face, but if you see on the map, there's actually a box down south from where I am. So it turns out you actually have to go get that thing first, the beacon. But there was this little ledge here, which I think was on the cliff face, which would hopefully make it easier to build over. I make the mistake of fighting this bear here, though. Probably should have just left him alone. But he gets me good. I died a few times here because every time I went to get my corpse back, the bear was still up on this ledge. And my tactic didn't work so well in the bush here. I messed up pretty bad. Trees kind of got in my way and got a bit flustered. And he got like a deep wound on me. Yep, so I died. So I wasn't exactly sure where to build on this face, even though it's a pretty prominent cliff face, even though I'm 1 level up from where the icon was. I ended up making ramps. Now, if ramps are connected to the mountain, they get support. If you just build them in the air, you can only go 3 or 4 up and then they'll just disintegrate. So if they're partially touching the rock face, they'll have support. So like this next one wouldn't have support unless you build one beside it. That's the way it works. If you just build them out in air, after a few seconds the platform disintegrates. So I had to go collect wood a few times, so there's a few cuts here, but... And then eventually I switched to thatch because wood got expensive. The nice thing about the wood platforms, though, is they'll survive better through storms. Because I have to come back at the end of this mission and come back over this mountainside, so... It turns out wood was a decent idea, but it took a while to collect. And that bear respawned a few times, by the way. Just so you know. He spawns on that ledge, I think. You can hear him respawning again. So we finally get to the top here, and the narrator lets you know. I still didn't have the beacon, though, so I had to go get the beacon before I went down into the valley here.
How's the view up there? Nice piece of work. Certainly does the job.
Now you need to build down into the valley as well. I don't recommend trying to walk down the cliff. But this is me heading to get the beacon first, so we'll speed through this. being cautious. So yeah, you'll need this on the other side of the mountain. This goes in your G slot. So I'll skip forward to the ramp again. And we'll build our way down into the valley. Now it's hard to rotate these things sometimes. But if you kind of face it in the reverse direction of you want to go, you can kind of build them out. And I'm using thatch this time just because it's cheaper. So down we go. I'm sure there's many different ways you can do this. This is just the version I settled on. And it seemed to work.
Welcome to the Riverlands. It's what happens when you wipe out a chunk of a world and replace it with your own genetically adjusted flora and fauna. An ecologist's nightmare and wet dream all rolled into one. Problem is, no one knows exactly how exotics are affecting this place, or how any of it's going to develop long term. Question is Icarus gone? Or just resting?
So we're heading west here through the pass. Trying to get to the ultimate destination here. I'll just skip ahead a bit. Almost there. Some nice beautiful waterfalls along the way. And you actually have to build it in here.
And the beacon's nearby. But it'll need a platform.
Seems like a decent place.
Beacon activated. Signal looks solid.
And that's pretty much the end of the mission. Now you just have to run back. That's the one thing I don't like about this game, is you always have to run back to the drop ship. And sometimes it's a really, really long run. The next mission guide that I'm probably going to be coming out with is for the avalanche mission. Yikes. The avalanche mission is like a massive, massive, massive grind. Oh yeah, see, I attacked that cougar, now everything's coming at me. Luckily I survived this, I don't know how, but... The elephant gets back to peacefulness there. Yeah, so the avalanche map took me about 8 hours, I think. Because you have to collect a bunch of gold. Now there is a patch out as of today, I think December 10th, that increases the gold spawn rate. So that'll help you, but you also need a lot of copper. You just have to do a lot of mining in general, and there's a lot of prerequisites. Building all the way up to the fabricator, and then building circuits. Or sorry, building circuits first. You need 60 circuits to build the fabricator. And then you gotta build a generator, and a biofuel composter, and a biofuel can, and then you gotta make some biofuel. Anyway. It'll be an interesting guide, I think. There's like so many animals attacking when I lift off here. They'll just get burnt in the exhaust. So I hope you enjoyed that. Hopefully it was helpful. The building over the mountainside is, I guess, the tricky part if it's, you consider it tricky. It's just not clear exactly where you do it and how you're supposed to do it. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.